AITA for letting my boss get arrested after he stole my bonus vacation for his mistress? I had been working as the logistics director for global tech for 3 years. 3 years in which I had not taken a single vacation. I worked weekends and saved the company from bankruptcy twice, thanks to my contacts in China. As a reward for closing the biggest contract of the decade, the CEO, a fair man named Mr. Hawthorne, had personally granted me the diamond bonus, a 2-week, all-expenses-paid trip to the Maldives for my wife and me, valued at $25,000, including first-class flights on Emirates and an overwater villa. But Mr. Hawthorne had retired 2 months ago, and his replacement, a guy named Gordon Stone, was the human definition of greed and incompetence. Gordon hated me because I knew more about the business than he did, and because the team respected me. So, I was not surprised when he called me into his office at 4:50 in the afternoon on a Friday. What did surprise me, and what made my blood boil, was seeing his executive assistant, a 22-year-old named Tessa with whom he was having a not-so-secret inappropriate relationship, sitting in my chair flipping through swimsuit catalogs. "Sit down, Calvin," Gordon said without looking at me, adjusting his silk tie. "I have bad news. Due to a strategic restructuring, your position has been eliminated. You are terminated, effective immediately." I froze. Terminated? Gordon, I just brought in $5 million in sales last month. The logistics team will collapse without me. The team will be fine. Tessa here will be taking over your duties, he replied with a smirk. Tessa did not even look up from her phone. "But that is not all," Gordon continued. "Since you are no longer an employee of Global Tech, all company property must be returned. And that includes the Maldives travel package old Hawthorne gave you. Legally, it is a corporate bonus, and since you are no longer with the corporation, well, you get the picture." My mind went blank. That trip was our delayed honeymoon. My wife had already bought new clothes. Our bags were packed and ready to go on Monday. "You cannot do that, Gordon," I said, standing up. "That trip is in my name. I have the vouchers. It was a personal gift from the former CEO. Gordon let out a dry laugh and opened his drawer, pulling out a legal document. "Check your employment agreement. Clause 4B. Any non-monetary bonus is company property until its execution. Give me the booking codes and the physical tickets now, Calvin, or I swear I will call security to escort you out, and I will make sure you never work in this industry again. I will blacklist you with every supplier from here to Hong Kong." The rage I felt was so intense I saw red. They were blatantly robbing me. Gordon wanted to take his mistress on my trip, using my termination as an excuse. I knew if I refused, he would make good on his threat to ruin my professional reputation. He had the power to do it. "Fine," I said finally, with a calmness that scared even me. I took my folder out of my briefcase. "Here is the envelope with the itineraries, the first-class boarding passes, and the hotel reservations. Everything is confirmed for this Monday at 8 in the morning." Gordon snatched the envelope from my hands like a greedy child. "See, that was not so hard," he said, looking over the glossy papers. "Now get out. Security is waiting for you at the elevator. And Calvin, thanks for the farewell gift." I walked out of the office to the sound of his laughter and Tessa's squeals of excitement. I walked to the elevator with the box of my belongings, and as the doors closed, I pulled out my phone. Gordon thought he had won. He thought I was a submissive employee who would just accept defeat. What Gordon did not know was that the diamond bonus had a logistical quirk that only I, as the director of logistics, knew about. And those tickets he had just stolen were not simple plane passes. They were the fuse to a legal bomb that was set to explode in his face at 30,000 feet. I left the glass tower of global tech with my cardboard box under my arm as the rain began to fall, a cliché dismissal scene that Gordon was surely enjoying from his 40th floor window. But what he could not see from his ivory tower was that I was not crying. I was dialing my wife, Lauren, with a blood-chilling calm. When she answered, excitedly asking if she should pack the red or the blue dress for the welcome dinner, I had to drop the bomb. "We are not going, honey. Gordon fired me 10 minutes ago and confiscated the tickets to take Tessa." The silence on the other end of the line was followed by a sob that broke my heart. Lauren had endured a difficult year caring for her sick mother, and this trip was her light at the end of the tunnel. Hearing her cry in helplessness transformed my cold rage into volcanic hatred. "Listen to me, Lauren," I said, lowering my voice even though I was alone in my car. Dry your tears and open a bottle of wine. Because even though we are not going to the Maldives, Gordon is not going to enjoy that trip either. In fact, that plane is going to be his prison cell. Trust me. I hung up and drove home. Not to mourn, but to execute the protocol that Gordon, in his infinite arrogance and incompetence, had overlooked. You see, the diamond bonus old Mr. Hawthorne gave me was not a simple vacation package bought on Expedia. Because Global Tech handles sensitive defense logistics contracts with the government, the trip was booked through a special corporate account linked to Federal International Relations funds, an account strictly audited by the State Department under the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. Hawthorne had a special, signed waiver to use it as a reward for high-level employees. A waiver that was in my name and required my physical signature and fingerprint at the airport to validate the trip as ethical and compliant. By stealing the physical tickets and codes, Gordon thought he had control. But he was ignorant of the fact that without my biometric validation in the company's system before the flight, the use of those funds is automatically classified as embezzlement of federal funds and Class A wire fraud, a felony that carries a minimum sentence of 10 years in federal prison, not just a simple civil lawsuit. I spent Saturday and Sunday as a digital ghost, monitoring Tessa's social media, which was an endless source of incriminating evidence. She posted photos of the tickets with the reservation numbers visible, rookie mistake number 1, with hashtags like Luxury Life, Missio, and Maldives Girl, and videos of Gordon buying designer swimsuits using, guess what, the corporate travel expense card that I had managed. Every purchase, every post, was another nail in his coffin. But the climax came on Saturday night. My phone rang, and I saw Gordon's name on the screen. I put it on speaker so Lauren could hear the man's audacity. "Calvin," Gordon said in the slurred voice of someone who has had a few too many drinks. "Hey, I know you are unemployed and probably crying, but I need the PIN for the Emirates VIP lounge access at the airport. Tessa wants free champagne, and the papers you gave me do not have the code." Lauren looked at me, her eyes wide with fury, but I motioned for her to be quiet and replied in my best defeated, submissive employee voice. "Sure, Gordon. I do not want any trouble. The code is 9988. Enjoy the champagne." "Thanks, loser. Maybe I will send you a postcard." He laughed and hung up. What Gordon did not know is that 9988 was not the VIP lounge code. It was the user confirmation code that activated the card's real-time tracking alert, confirming to the banking system that the card was actively being used by someone other than me. On Sunday night, with all the evidence gathered, I drafted a single email. Not to Human Resources, not to the Board of Directors, but directly to the Office of Inspector General of the General Services Administration, and I copied the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. The subject line was simple: urgent report, ongoing theft of federal assets and identity impersonation, flight EK-204. I attached the receipts Tessa had foolishly posted, my termination letter proving I could not possibly be using those funds, and the confirmation that Gordon and Tessa were checked in for the flight using a restricted government account for a personal getaway. I hit send at 11:59 in the evening, just 8 hours before their flight, imagining Gordon sleeping peacefully, dreaming of white sand beaches, unaware that across town, a federal agent had just received an alert on his secure smartphone and was authorizing a gate interception warrant. Gordon wanted to fly high, and I was going to make sure the fall was hard enough to break every bone in his career. Monday morning, the international airport was a beehive of activity, but I was not there to travel. I had purchased a fully refundable first-class ticket for a flight to Chicago just for this purpose. I was sitting in a strategic coffee shop in the international terminal with a baseball cap pulled down low and an old newspaper partially covering my face, watching the VIP entrance like a sniper waiting for his target. And I did not have to wait long. At 7:15 in the morning, a black corporate sedan I immediately recognized as the vehicle reserved only for foreign clients, another protocol violation, pulled up to the curb. Out stepped Gordon, sporting aviator sunglasses and a white linen suit that screamed new money, followed by Tessa, who was dragging 2 gigantic Louis Vuitton suitcases that shined so much they probably still had the price tags on. The scene was disgusting. Gordon snapped his fingers at the skycap to hurry with the luggage without giving him a glance or a tip, and then they strode into the terminal with the particular arrogance of people who believe the world is their personal red carpet. From my position, I watched them head to the Emirates priority check-in counter. My heart was pounding, not with fear, but with the electric anticipation of knowing the trap was set. I saw Gordon hand over the passports and the vouchers he had stolen from me with a self-satisfied smile. The counter agent typed something, frowned, and then made a phone call. Gordon, impatient, tapped his knuckles on the counter, probably saying his favorite line, "Do you know who I am?" I saw the agent nod, force a nervous smile, and hand them the boarding passes. A chill ran down my spine. Had the plan failed? Had the system not detected the discrepancy? For a moment, panic washed over me, thinking Gordon would get away with it, that he would fly to the Maldives and laugh at me from the beach. But then I remembered how federal bureaucracy works. It is slow, silent, and lethally efficient. They would not stop them at the counter. That would be too easy. They wanted them to cross every possible red line. They wanted them to pass through security, enter the sterile area, and commit the full federal crime of attempting to flee by boarding the aircraft. I followed them at a discreet distance, got through security with my own valid boarding pass, and watched them enter the VIP lounge using the 9988 code I gave them. The code that, in the corporate card security system, did not mean access authorized, but silent alert, card compromised, use under duress. By entering that number, Gordon did not just open the lounge's automatic doors. He digitally confirmed his exact location to the 3 federal agents who, according to a confirmation email I had received 10 minutes earlier, were already deployed in the terminal. But Gordon had no idea. He and Tessa sat on the leather sofas, ordered the most expensive bottle of Dom Perignon on the menu, charged to the company account, of course, and toasted, clinking their glasses. Tessa took selfies with her passport and champagne glass, posting her own criminal evidence in real time, while Gordon talked loudly on his phone, laughing. I could overhear snippets of his conversation. "Yeah, I fired that idiot Calvin on Friday. He left crying. Yeah, I kept his trip. It is a perk of the job, man. Let him rot in the unemployment line while I get a tan." I clenched my fists under the table. "Enjoy the champagne, Gordon," I thought, because it will be the last thing you drink that is not tap water for a long time. The boarding announcement for flight EK204 echoed through the speakers, and the golden couple stood up, leaving their half-finished glasses and walking toward the gate as if they owned the plane. I stayed behind, watching from the panoramic window as they handed their passes at the gate, walked down the jet bridge, and disappeared into the fuselage of the massive Airbus A380. The aircraft doors closed. The engines began to hum, and for one terrible second, the plane started to reverse. The pushback had begun. My stomach churned. Were the agents late? Had they escaped? I was about to feel a serious sense of regret when suddenly, the plane stopped dead on the tarmac. The cabin lights flickered, and I saw through the glass as the jet bridge reconnected to the aircraft door. It was not a mechanical failure. It was an intervention. 3 men in dark suits with badges hanging from their necks, accompanied by 2 armed airport police officers, walked purposefully down the jet bridge. They entered the plane, and although I could not hear what was happening inside, my imagination and passenger testimonies later uploaded to social media filled in the scene in vivid detail. Gordon was in his first-class seat, shoes off and a mimosa in hand, when Special Agent Carter of the FBI stood before him and said, "Gordon Stone, you are under arrest for wire fraud, embezzlement of federal funds, and aggravated identity theft." Gordon, in his infinite stupidity, tried to play the arrogance card one last time. "Is this a joke? I am the CEO of Global Tech. This trip is mine. I will call my lawyers," he yelled, trying to stand up. But the police officer was not playing games. He guided him back into the seat, secured his arm behind his back, and snapped on the metal handcuffs with a click that must have sounded like heavenly music to the passengers tired of his behavior. Tessa started shrieking hysterically. "I did not do anything. He told me it was a gift. I am just the assistant," while trying to hide behind her Louis Vuitton bag. But the agents cuffed her as an accomplice too. They were escorted off the plane, Gordon barefoot, disheveled, shouting threats to sue the United States government, and Tessa crying, ruining her perfect makeup. They were made to walk the entire length of the economy class cabin, under the gaze of 300 passengers recording with their cell phones. And when they emerged from the gate, back into the terminal, I was there, leaning against a pillar. I took off my cap, let Gordon see me, and when our eyes met, I smiled and gave him a small wave. His eyes widened with a mixture of hatred and complete understanding. He tried to lunge at me, screaming, "You did this. You planned this." But the agents dragged him toward the security exit, straight to a federal detention cell, where there is no room service and no ocean views. The video of Gordon being dragged barefoot off the Airbus A380 by federal agents went viral before the plane had even finished unloading the other passengers' luggage, accumulating 3 million views on social media under the hashtag #handcuffs. As I was driving home from the airport, my phone started ringing incessantly. It was not my wife, not my friends. It was the board of directors of Global Tech, the same men in gray suits who had approved Gordon's appointment without investigating his background. The chairman of the board, Mr. Prescott, left me 5 voicemails, each more desperate than the last, progressing from Calvin, we need to clear up a misunderstanding, to Calvin, please answer. The company's stock is in freefall. We need your help to contain this. I listened to the messages with deep satisfaction as I stopped at a wine shop to buy the most expensive bottle they had to celebrate with Lauren. The next day, the full extent of Gordon's disaster came to light on national news. He was not just charged with embezzling federal funds for the trip. The FBI, upon seizing his laptop and phone at the airport, discovered a network of bribery and financial misconduct he had been running using the company's infrastructure. Tessa, released on bail that same afternoon, did not waste a second cooperating with the authorities to save her own skin, handing prosecutors emails, voice recordings, and receipts that proved Gordon had been siphoning company assets to fund his lavish lifestyle for months. He had used my termination as a smokescreen to cover his financial tracks. The restructuring he used to fire me was a lie, a fabrication to get me out of the way because I was the only one who could spot his theft in the logistics books. 2 days later, I met with the board of directors in their offices. But this time, I did not walk in as a subordinate employee. I walked in accompanied by my lawyer, a legal shark specializing in corporate lawsuits who was rubbing his hands together. Mr. Prescott offered me my job back with a 50% raise, an apology bonus, and the title of Vice President of Operations. We need someone clean, someone the feds trust to audit Gordon's mess, he pleaded, sweating profusely. Gordon destroyed our reputation. Calvin, you are the hero of this story. Please, come back. I looked at the offer on the table. I looked at Gordon's empty office, now sealed with yellow evidence tape. And I thought about how he had humiliated me in front of his mistress, how he had laughed at me, how he tried to steal my dignity. No, I said, simply pushing the contract back toward them. I am not coming back to work for a company that allowed a criminal to take control without any oversight. My reputation is spotless, and I am not going to tarnish it by cleaning up your mess. Mr. Prescott turned pale. Then what do you want? Money? Can we talk about a settlement? Oh, we are going to talk about money, my lawyer intervened with a predatory smile. We are going to talk about a lawsuit for wrongful termination, professional defamation, emotional distress, and whistleblower retaliation. And since Gordon was acting as an agent of the company when he committed these crimes, you are vicariously liable. The tense negotiation lasted 4 hours, but in the end, to avoid a public trial that would have buried their stock price forever, Global Tech agreed to an out-of-court settlement of $4.5 million, designated for damages and distress, plus a public letter of apology and full coverage of my legal expenses. Gordon was not so lucky. Without the company's support, and with Tessa testifying against him, he pleaded guilty to 3 federal charges to avoid a 20-year sentence. He was sentenced to 8 years in a minimum security federal prison, ordered to pay back everything he stole, and banned for life from holding an executive position in any public company. His wife, yes, he was married, a detail Tessa forgot to mention on her social media, filed for divorce, and took what little was left of his assets, leaving him completely ruined. As for Lauren and me, we used part of the settlement money to open our own logistics consulting firm, Phoenix Logistics, which now competes directly with Global Tech and is winning their best clients. And the trip to the Maldives? Well, we did not go that Monday. But 3 months later, we flew to Bora Bora in a chartered private jet, with no need for corporate vouchers or anyone's permission. And as we toasted with real champagne in front of the sunset, I realized Gordon had been right about one thing. That trip really was a bonus. He just never understood that the real prize was not the beach, but the freedom of never having to put up with mediocre bosses ever again. Comment: what truly stays with me from this experience is the quiet power of self-respect. Sometimes people will try to diminish your value for their own gain. But setting a firm boundary is not about getting even. It is about honoring your own worth. I also saw how choices rooted in disrespect ultimately create their own consequences. The Real win was never about the fight itself, but rather about the healing that came after. It reminds all of us that we can turn a painful chapter into a powerful new beginning. True strength is found in building a future grounded in integrity and kindness. Choosing a path where your peace of mind becomes the ultimate prize is its own kind of victory. I hope you always remember that no one can take your dignity away from you. Stay true to yourself and protect your peace. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.